All right. So I believe I am the newest member in the Sangha in this group, and I for sure I am the least experienced yogi, if I can be considered a yogi. I don't know, like apprentice yogi maybe, or something like that. And it's um, it's interesting how I how the things are, kind of synchronicities are popping all around. Um, I of course I didn't know about this project of 27 yogis in 27 days, and uh, I, I saw that there's still some spots open, and immediately I jumped to the opportunity of presenting to all of you a Romanian mystic by the name of Ilie Cioara. And I will use Romanian pronunciation of the words just for the uh, I don't know, the keeping the reality of the places and the names. I am of Romanian background. I I was born and raised in Romania until me and my family immigrated to Canada decades ago. So last summer, I was using some Andrei Cioara's YouTube channel, searching for Dzogchen teachings. I noticed that there's several people that have used or are using that resource, which I personally find very good, and I'm grateful to her and to everybody that helps her to maintain the channel. And while I was looking for those Nigma and Dzogchen recordings, I found about this gentleman, Ilie Cioara, and of course I was extremely surprised, pleasantly surprised. Um, but also I was surprised that I never heard of him. Now, I'm not the most knowledgeable person, and definitely there are lots of things that are not necessarily in the public eye, but it surprised me a little bit. So I jumped on the opportunity of this project, of the Sanghas project for the 27 yogis, because I thought it's an interesting story, very Dzogchen in essence, as you how I hope you'll see. And yeah, that was the motivation. Again, synchronicity. Um, and to put the things a little bit into perspective, just to give you an idea, he was born, as you see, in 1916, passed away in 2004. So his formative years were around the Second World War, before and after. Why it's important, of course, like all the European countries and other countries as well, Romania was torn by the Second World War. Lots of dramatic events, lots of impact, trauma, personal lives, and then following the war, as probably some of you know, Romania was how should I say? Just trying not to be very political here, but let's say the communist regime uh, came to power, and that change of structures of fundamentals in society, of course, was happened with lots of added trauma and dramatic events in people's lives, because there were lots of friction society and mass reprimations, uh, political prisons, labor camps, and everything, which probably some of you know. So all these events marked or had an influence on Ilie Cioara's life. Um, I thought I kind of prepare a text, but there's not a lot of information about him on the internet. So instead of me patching something which may not have been, let's say, clear enough or intelligent enough, I looked for some sources and I tried to translate and to massage a little bit the text. So of course, I'm not going to read all the, all the authors. Usually, there's website, internet resources, so probably there's not a matter of copyright on them. So I will read the text that I have, and then I'll try to summarize what I thought impacted me in his story. And, I'll let the audience comment further as everybody will feel necessary. So, quote, life cannot be understood objectively unless we are in a state of complete freedom and serenity of mind. Life is always new from one moment to the next, and it asks us, even forces us, to face it with a fresh look, without the weight of memory. Close quote. In his 88 years of life, the mystic born on January 4th, 1916, in Dolch County, uh, maybe the second photo, please, yes, went through countless experiences, which he described in his 16 books. Now, he was born in southern part of Romania, very close to the Danube River, in an area where, as you can see, not lots of hills, very agricultural area, and his parents were small, middle class type of farmers. By the age of 55, when he experienced enlightenment, he had never written a page or tried to share his knowledge. He was an ordinary man with a deep longing for divinity who lived in very adverse circumstances. His life story does not belong to any tradition of enlightenment, such as Zen, Advaita, non-duality, yoga, and others, and he had no master to guide him. He never traveled to India. He had a quiet childhood and hard-working parents. He did his first years of school in the village, high school in Caransebeș, and then business studies in Bucuresti. After the military service, he was hired by the Ministry of Interior and was sent to Brașov. The next picture, please. Yes, where he was a police commissioner. The city is in the central part of Romania. It's in the mountains, and it's very important because at some point he traveled there with the intent of hiding in the mountains, hiding from the communist police and forces. At that time, there was some form of resistance in these mountains against the new regime. Anyways, he got married and stayed there until the communists came to power in December 1947 and imprisoned him because he did not accept to join the Communist Party. He was not convicted, actually, and he was sent to a labor camp in southeastern part of Romania, where he spent several years. Before being arrested, he hid in the attic of a summer kitchen in his parents' house for 2 years and 7 months. There, he experimented with out of body. And at the age of 29, and at the age of 32, he had the first astral travel. One night, sitting in the dark, quote, I woke up out of my body, says Ilie Cioara. I had gone out unintentionally. I was about 6 meters tall, and I was looking at me. I could see the room like the back of my hand. Behind the chimney, I saw a piece of steel, which I didn't know about. Who would have put it there, I wondered. I was scared, and the next moment, I was back in my body. I was awake. I didn't sleep. I didn't dream. In my life, I had never read a book on parapsychology. I did not know what out of the body meant. With trembling hands, I barely managed to light a candle and go for the chimney. Lord God, that piece of metal was there. Then I knew that it was not a simple hallucination, and that I was not crazy. Because he lived in almost complete isolation, his words have a freshness and straightforward simplicity, devoid of any spiritual jargon. Originally, Ilie Cioara was a Christian mystic who lived behind the Iron Curtain in Bucharest in almost complete isolation from any teaching on enlightenment. A practicing Christian, at the age of 41, he began to repeat prayer of the heart. In the mundane reality, he had a job, but in his reality, he repeated with each breath the prayer of the heart from morning to night, seeking a spiritual fusion with the divine, which he only intuited at that time. He lived as a monk in this world. After 8 years of practicing this prayer, one day he felt an inner impulse to give up his repetitive practice in favor of silent meditation, in which he was only an observer. The decision was made by analyzing the progress of the last 22 years, which was only superficial. He had not noticed any significant change, and then he thought of trying with the activity of the mind, if the activity of the mind could not transform him. He just started watching and listening. Quote, life is like a oneness that challenges us moment by moment, and we respond with our ego, with our education, as it is based on me and mine. So we have a selfish upbringing, and all the reactions of the mind we meet with pure consciousness. After about 2 years of practicing this state, one morning, waking up from sleep, he noticed that his mind had become completely silent, a simple mirror of what was happening in the present. He felt like a man who had been blind from birth and just regained his sight after surgery. Everything around him seemed like new. A quiet mind, perceiving things as they are without distortions. Thus, he realized that he had experienced liberation, ego crushing, or enlightenment. Soon after, he felt an inner urge to share his experience, using short lines that could give the reader a definition of resting the mind. The lyrics were followed by longer explanations. Most of these writings had to be hidden in a friend's apartment until 1990, when the Iron Curtain fell, so as not to be confiscated by the communist authorities. Just a note from me, during the communist regime, of course, the politics, the official ideology was based on dialectical materialism, and any form of spirituality was, depending on the form, was either banned or reprimanded. Quote, enlightenment is a surprising phenomenon which opens the way to divine greatness for the regular person. The phenomenon is accompanied by two profound changes: the shattering of the ego and the passage of the being from the finite to the infinite world. I would say probably from dual to non-dual. This fortunate event is not a product of the intellect, nor of the imagination, nor of the effort or will used to fulfill a goal or ideal. No one can give us enlightenment. No saint, teacher can give it to us in any way. Enlightenment is the price of working with yourself. Once you have discovered true life, it transforms you, and through you transforms all the humanity. In the great oneness, the transformation of one part naturally influences the whole. If man were to discover the reality of his own being, any problem would be solved in the happiest possible way, and human relationships would create a true paradise on this planet. We can scroll yes to the next one and then to the following one. He spent his last years of life in Bucharest. Ilie Cioara's door was always open to anyone interested in the truth. the translator of his book, The Silence of the Mind, said that when he met him, he was fascinated by his eyes, similar to the eyes of Ramana Maharshi or Papaji Yogananda. He could not ask him any question because his mind had emptied, and the energy of the room urged him to meditate. All he wanted was to meditate in his presence and look into his eyes. Ilie Cioara's teachings is very simple. Follow the mind, the emotions, every moment of the self, and as the mind becomes quiet, the happy divine essence of the being is revealed. There is no need for masters, methods, techniques, or rituals. In fact, any technique or ritual come from the mind and creates a mental model, further reinforcing the fiction and imprisonment of the ego. Our divine nature is infinite, boundless, blissful, and cannot be attained by any effort of the mind or ego. If we were to summarize Ilie Cioara's teaching in a single sentence, it would be, when the mind is silent, our inner divinity is revealed. The mind tends to create divisions, but the truth is very simple. We are all one. We have fallen into the trap of believing that we are our mind, or our body, or our emotions, or mental identity, or fears, or possessions. In fact, we are oneness. Our essence is one with the great boundless one. We are the slaves of the mind. How can we free ourselves? Simply by continuously observing the mind. We realize that we are not the mind. We detach ourselves from the mind and spontaneously come out of the prison of the mind. Although it seems too simple to be true, it really works. From the moment we wake up in the morning until fall asleep at night, you realize that you are not the mind, but only the one who observes it. You get up, go to the bathroom, to brush your teeth, the state of observation continues. You dress to go to work, the one who notices is there, in the background. You get in the car and start driving. You continue to be an observer. This state is a miracle. At first glance, it doesn't seem like that. The word observer holds the key to all the mysteries of existence, and this state cannot be understood by the mind. Quote, no matter how educated it is, the mind cannot understand the phenomenon of creation, being restricted in its own limitations. Ilie Cioara did not write the books with the aim of making us accumulate more knowledge. On the contrary, the goal is to give them up. He tried to give us a direct experience of who we really are, to reconnect with the self, with the ultimate reality. His books are an invitation for the reader to go beyond his mind and experience this reality for himself. Quote, as an ego, we run after pleasure, and we run away from pain. But what do I say to you? Why not sacrifice pleasure for happiness? Because happiness is found in another dimension, in the dimension of the absolute love. And with absolute love, there is no longer any conflict between humans. I'm talking about a paradise on earth when we function to the reality of our being. We are neither the body nor the mind. Beyond the body and mind, there is this reality. What is the divinity in us? And if we rise to the level of this divinity, then we are brothers, meaning that there is no longer any conflict between man and man. And then we demolish this world of chaos. And here is a longer passage, a quote from one of his books. Self-knowing is not a method. This is how it's translated, but I would say awareness is not a method. So I'm going to use the word awareness. Awareness is not a religious belief, nor is a method, because we do not anticipate any ideals to reach, nor set out with a goal in mind by doing or not doing something. Will, effort, imagination, faith, repeating formulas, or mental analysis are unnecessary, for the simple reason that all these are connected to the past, and therefore they are part of the ego. This imaginary structure can only repeat old facts, increasing its self-importance. Any method, no matter how promising, can only fortify the structure of the ego, further increasing the chaos within the individual. Functioning on this level, we ourselves set the traps and we fall into them. The reality of these facts demonstrates, beyond any doubt, that we are the victims of our own ego. In practicing awareness, we start only from what is, from the reality of facts appearing before us each moment, in the unfolding movement of the being. We don't need to do anything other than to come into direct contact with all these appearances, thoughts, emotional states, desires, images, so on. It is just a simple meeting without pursuing any results or expectations. The simplicity of the encounter with no movements of the ego leads to their disappearance. Both the encounter and the spontaneous disappearance of the reactions of the mind confirm the reality of knowing. In this emptiness, when a simple state of being or pure consciousness. Only this perfect meeting does a new perspective open. The sacred within us manifests itself as love, intelligence, and absolute purity. We can search the whole world, as well as everything that the human mind has imagined or invented. We will never find anything comparable to the efficiency of this simple encounter as a state of nothingness or psychological zero. The emptiness or passiveness of the mind, provided by lucid attention, is an abyss in which the old, egocentric, arrogant, fearful man disappears. Simultaneously with this disappearance, the true nature of our being is revealed, without beginning or end, in its essence, immortal divinity. This is the new man, destined to create a different world, in which love and its hallowing impulses is present everywhere, creating the true paradise on our planet. Again, this was a passage from Ilie Cioara. So this is the text. As I said, it's rather short. I think I felt it's very powerful and intriguing, the entire story. The fact that someone appeared from nowhere, and I definitely impacted by personal trauma. That's why I insisted on some of the historic events, and I hope you all understood that he was part of the historic events. So his trauma probably opened the door to finding the pure reality. That was his preliminaries. This is one of the things that I found very, very interesting. That with no I don't know, access to Tibetan Buddhism, which didn't exist in Romania. I can attest this until, I don't know, 2000, probably 12, maybe 2005, 12, something like that. So he didn't have any access, and books weren't published at that time. With no training, no affiliation to any sort of mystical movement, which Romania anyways didn't have. Sure, Christian country, but it wasn't excessively, I don't know, mystic, spiritual. It's just a regular institutional religious system. He just discovered, he just transcended everything, and yeah, and with I don't find a better word. With no training, with no background. He was actually, in one of his interviews, he was talking about his dad being rather pragmatic and materialistic and non-spiritual at all. Yeah, that's this is what I found very interesting, and I hope this shows that there are cases of people that are discovering the same thing that we are practicing in a I want to say formal way, Dzogchen. There are people that discover the same thing in a very spontaneous way. And what's more Dzogchen than this type of experience? Just being spontaneous and just having this, I don't know, enlightenment. That's all I have. Thank you.
Well, it was great, Andrei. It's really exciting, at least for me, to come upon someone describing it in a new language. It's interesting that he didn't call it God immediately. If he was a Christian monastic, there are many people who do that. He insisted on his own language. And I liked where he had finite and non-finite instead of dual and non-dual. That's very approachable language. All the finite is a limitation. There's like a little boundary around everything.
Exactly. If you look from a mathematical point of view, the finite is an axis that has let's say a minimal point, a minus, or anyways, has a minimum and a maximum. So it's you can picture it. That's a finite, right? The non-finite, it's open, and because it's open, it's not even an axis. It's a space, and because it's a space, who says it's bidimensional? Can be three-dimensional, can be multi-dimensional. Sorry, I'm an engineer, and I have a very bad habit of thinking in scientific
That's
terms.
great. Even with with a number line, there's a center. There's a 0 point. But for an infinite, where's the center? There's no center.
The center is where you turn and you look. That's the center. That's how you define. And the next second, if you turn in a different, if you turn, you will have a different center, a different reference, which means that there's no reference fundamentally, or stable reference.
Well, you're getting a lot of heart mentions or hearts in the comment. Yeshi has a request. If you happen to have a teaching of his in Romanian.
You would have to take my cell phone. I could probably find something very quickly, but you have to give me a bit of time. I don't have a cell phone with me, or no. Let me see. Maybe I can find something.
There's no rush. Yes, she's an editing master.
Everything is in English. God.
You can pick one of the quotes in English and say it in Romanian.
That's asking.
I found something. Let's see if I can find it.
The thing is to honor his origin and the language he was writing into.
I don't think I'm gonna.
Don't worry.
I'm gonna find something.
It's
quickly.
not to happen. It's not to happen. Don't worry.
Yeah. It's not meant to be.
Yeah.
I'll keep looking for it, but
it's interesting that you picked up on the finite and non-finite, because there is concept in Mahamudra of a sphere that has neither center nor circumference. So that's an interesting sort of self-born analogy he was using, but it's definitely in line with Eastern thinking for sure.
yeah, I don't know, Scott or somebody else, if you've heard of it's called Philokalia. It was a mystical movement in Orthodox Church, and I think it has I don't know, a Vedic influence, because it appeared in probably 1200, 1300, and then kind of proliferated, and it's basically a mystical movement. So it's out of the church's dogma and teachings. It's just fundamental discovery of the divinity in oneself. including prayers and meditation, a lot of meditation. I might have found something, so give me 1 second. Yeah, I do have. I'll have to pick something. Oh, it's a poem. A face și a avea. Page 16. Okay. To be, to do, and to have. But I'll read in Romanian. I'll just go. În trecutul milenar, ba chiar multimilenar, am folosit în mod pașnic, înspre sacul avatar, aceste verbe active în ordine nefirească, a face și a avea sarcină duhovnicească, prețuind acumularea îndeplinirilor reale, a fi socotit finalul scopurilor ideale, așadar sacra ființare, stare de pură conștiință obținută prin efortul urmărind o năzuință. La nivelul spiritual, lucrurile altfel stau. Însul, de fapt, înăuntru, în interiorul tău, nu-i decât simplă prezență, nu e ceva de făcut, nici nu dorești ceva ca împlinire drept avut. În această ipostază suntem simplă unitate, noi și Universul una, în perfectă libertate. La fel și cu Dumnezeu, bunătatea infinită, ca topiți în uniune, realitatea vădită. Din postura de a fi, avem clara perspectivă, ce anume e de făcut, ca și dorința activă, de realizare în timp pentru buna viețuire în această existență rezemată prin iubire. În concluzie, tot timpul vom fi prezent la prezent și oriunde ne-am afla, lucid, clar și evident, când sacrul din noi conduce ființa noastră întrupată cu firească înțelepciune, comportare consacrată. I can tell you, it's a very beautiful poem.
Thank you so much. Beautiful.